I'm ready
I
if you
peed
guys
a little
are.
for that one. Okay. Okay.
I'm
Perfect.
ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
And 3, 2, 1. It's the Sean Prue Show and a special interview also for the GayGuideNetwork.com. I am joined by two people right now who I don't think I would have ever put in the same room again, let alone introduced together. My friend and former colleague and sexless lover, Mary Jo Eustace, is here with me now. And with us both, too, is her ex-husband, Dee McDermott.
Sean's current lover.
My current lover. Full sex.
It's a long distance relationship, but we make it
Don't
work.
tell Tori.
Not a word. No one will hear about it.
I was flipping through my Instagram and saw a picture of the two of you. Not a cozy picture, but a picture of the two of you, and a new picture because I see MJ's feed all the time. And I thought, what in the devil is going on with these two? And it turns out that it's something called a podcast, and the podcast is called X's and Uh-Ohs. Dean,
Yes,
not
which
O-Ohs.
I'm very subtle on the
It's a very nuanced thing.
X's and uh-ohs. X's and uh-ohs. Yeah,
yes,
I'm learning.
correct.
I'm learning.
He's learning.
Baby
He's
steps.
learning.
Baby steps, Sean.
I want to begin at the beginning because this sort of took me by surprise. It's been a while since you and I have chatted, MJ, and I think the last time I saw you was I was at your gracious home having a gracious meal in LA. And that was about 4 years ago. And I don't think 4 years ago I would have seen this coming. I still didn't see it coming. How did you get to a place where you would sit down with Dean and create this podcast that you've created?
Well, that's a really good question, Sean Prue, in your sexy sweater.
And pink wallpaper. I love that wallpaper.
It's like the red room from The Shining. I don't know what the fuck has gone on in there. But okay. Dean, should I throw the floor to you? Why don't you?
Sure. You know,
do an entry.
It's funny that you say, 4 years ago you wouldn't have seen this coming, and 4, 5, 6 years ago, it was sort of in the making, and we didn't know it because no matter where we were at, Mary Jo and I were at in our relationship, and most of the time we were at odds and not liking each other very much, we'd always get together for birthdays and Christmas. And, we could be at each other's throats, but once we got to the table for whatever the event was, we ended up laughing our asses off together, just like when we were together.
Wow.
So cut to last year when our son, Jack, graduated SFU, and we went and spent 3 days in San Francisco. And, again, we were faced with the same situation. Like, here we are, we're having a blast. We're picking up where we left off, like we were still together, laughing and joking. We had a great time. So we thought, hey, let's do a podcast together about becoming friends with your ex again and sort of, document the journey from marriage to hatred to friendship. So we sat down and we actually did it.
Yeah, that's where it began. That's where it began.
That's
where it began.
I just want to tell everybody listening or watching this, it's an excellent podcast.
Thank you.
I was listening to it just to do my research, and it's fantastic. I want to keep hearing more because you hit on some tough things. You hit on things with humor and grace. And Mary Jo, that when I met you is when Dean had first left you for Tori Spelling. And I remember, I've said this to you several times, that you handled this with such grace. And that wasn't always the case, though, for sure, because in the podcast you mentioned the difficulty of solo parenting and the empathy you developed as a person and the strength you developed as a person from having to go through all in the public eye, all as tabloid fodder. And I think, Dean, one of the most poignant moments in the podcast is when you acknowledged, it turns out for the first time, that Mary Jo did an amazing job at this, and you felt empathy and understanding for what she was going through because of decisions and choices that you decided to make. And so did that come rolling out of your mouth, or is that something that you consciously have been feeling and wanted to express?
The great thing about our show is you never know what you're going to get. We start off with the premise, we're working on the 12 steps of divorce right now, but because we're just so open and honest and genuine, and that's our mantra, that you never know what's going to come out. And that came out. And it only took 17 years for me to tell her that.
17 years, right?
Which is what's so amazing about this show, is we're being open, honest, and we're communicating each other. We're talking to each other about things we never talked about because we were at odds all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you blocked her on your phone at one point. I know.
Yeah, I blocked her for 2 years on my phone.
Yeah.
I was like,
I
know, but still, that's where we were at. So, we could talk about that on the show, and then, blocking you for 2 years, and then it'll take a turn and we'll talk about something else. But, I'm really thankful that the show has given me the opportunity to talk to Mary Jo about things and express things to her that never worked, that I never did, that should have been.
Right.
And again, I tip my hat to you for being a single mom. It's tough as hell.
Oh, it's the worst fucking job in the world. And what did I say? You just need like a toilet plunger strapped to your thigh, because that's all you do.
Yeah.
But so to answer your question, it's a two-pronger. First of all, I did work with you right fresh off my divorce at Proud FM with What's for Breakfast with Ken and Mary Jo. The funnest job I've ever had. Like literally, we worked for that. We worked for the mafia. Like we had no budget. There was no coffee budget. In the morning, I'd go in and I'd say, should I be worried that we have to bring our own coffee to work and the signal wouldn't work out? And Dean and I were talking about this. The baths were next door. People would come out after, whatever. I'd run into people like giving blowjobs in the parking lot, whatever. So that was super, super interesting. And then, I think that, as Dean spoke about in San Francisco, when we went to our son's graduation together and spent this time in San Francisco, it was just so wonderful to be two parents, so proud of our son. And, we went for 4-hour lunches and had like a bottle of wine and chatted. And it was like the most fun ever. And, we've both done a lot of work on ourselves over the years. We've certainly had ups and downs and ebbs and flows. And if we were going to do this podcast, and it's been growing pains for both of us, I mean, it's not easy. And we talked about it and said, well, we have to be authentic. We have to be completely truthful and in the moment. So there's a rough sketch of the 12-step program that we do to reconnect with your ex. And Dean doesn't know the steps that I'm going to bring to it. And that's just, the body. We're going to, bounce off that all the time. And so when we have these conversations, they're all fresh and they're all new. And we're having them and learning so much about each other. And like Dean says, we can start, like we did this amazing podcast the other day, I won't spill it, that was started out on just pure hilarity. And then
we were celebrating something. And then it got heavy. Really heavy into this. Mary Jo threw a question at me and it got heavy, and I think that's one of our best episodes.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And so it's all exploratory and it's really hitting a note with people. And, for me, and I think Dean's on the same page, 17 years later, we'd like this to be a good divorce that turns into a friendship. And that's happened. And it's been a lot of hard work. It's been, it's been a 180 from where we started. Yep. And where we are now is like pure joy, fun, exploration.
It's starting another relationship. I mean, it's a commitment. We're recommitting to each other on on this level to have this friendship and no sex.
Please don't.
And that's what I was just going to say.
Mary Jo Eustace has a boyfriend.
That's one of the reasons we did this podcast was to get her a boyfriend. We started this podcast to put it out there to get her a boyfriend, and she has one. And she's using the boyfriend word. I'm so glad you're getting
laid. Oh,
she's using the B word.
You've needed this for a while.
Okay, pipe down. Look at both of you, pipe down. But Dean, don't I really have one?
She really has one. She's using the B word. And they successfully travel together. Like if you want to get to know someone, that's the big
test, isn't it?
That's the big test. They shared a bathroom, and although she didn't break out her night guard,
I didn't bring my night guard.
She didn't want to share that with him, which I thought she should have. But
baby steps.
Maybe the next step. The next
baby step. Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
talking about the passing of 17 years, and Mary Jo in the podcast episode 1, Welcome to the Jungle, Bitches. You say something that I found really profound. I was putzing around and I stopped what I was doing when you said it. It was that as the passage of time happens, you begin to see the humanity or the humanness of the other person, in this case, Dean. And I wonder, I mean, I just think that was huge, because that's what we're looking for when we're having the messy divorce, the messy breakup that's so elusive that some people never even see or find. And you found that with Dean and saw his humanity. And I wondered if you'd expand on that and tell us what you mean more.
Well, we were talking a bit about this the other day, actually. Because when we look back to 17 years ago when this all blew up, and we were both really surprised at how much attention it got and how it got so crazy, it was so crazy. And we were naive. There was a naivete. We had come from Canada, to break
Never
into
experienced
the States
anything like this, press and
no,
gossip.
nothing.
And, this is all new.
Right. And landing in California and then having this happen. And we didn't know what to do with all of it. Like, we all made mistakes along the way because it was just coming at us from all levels. I wasn't really used to somebody hiding in my bushes and taking pictures of me taking out my bush is.
Back to the new boyfriend again.
That's how she met him.
yeah, taking out the garbage and stuff, and then just the reality of it, and and just how difficult that situation was for both of us being exposed to that. And when I look back at those people, I just feel such compassion for them and empathy, and not and sadness, but understanding that who would have survived that situation, like who would have done well in that situation. And I that it was a really difficult situation to be in, and it didn't last a month, it didn't last a year, it lasted over a decade. So that's part of us trying to also take back the narrative, but I really have compassion for what we went through.
Yeah. And I think it's really easy to demonize the person who left. I'm still demonized to this day. I mean, we've had wonderful response from our launch of our show, but then there's also people on there that are still calling me a piece of shit douchebag. So the person leaving, it's easy to demonize them and keep them there and not see their humanity and not see that, they are human and they do make mistakes and I don't have any empathy for them. So it's amazing that, you've been able to get to that point where you do see this horrible person as being human and making mistakes. So
what has it been like, Dean, to be so vilified in the press and in private?
Fantastic.
And it's gone on. Yeah, amazing.
My God,
I'm sure.
it's been amazing.
No, but I mean the portrayal of you has been unsavory.
It's been well, boy. It's been a really up and down. I have moments where I deal with it fine, and then I have moments where it takes me down really bad, down a dark rabbit hole. I do have mental health issues, and that having people constantly attacking you, it doesn't put you in a good place.
No.
So I've struggled a lot. It's hurt me in so many ways. I mean, it still affects my relationship to this day. It affects my career. And now that the kids, they're older, Jack's 24, he certainly read his fair share of stuff. But now Liam and Stella and Hattie, they're starting to find these things and these articles and all this stuff online, because they're constantly. So that's what really hurts me now, is the kids reading this stuff.
Right.
Like, people really think that about you, Dad? And then I have to explain that it's just, they're sad people striking out, whatever my answer is. But I always tell them to read that stuff with compassion for the person who's writing it. But it's been a shit show. To be honest, it's been a shit show.
Yeah.
It's been awful. I've hated it. And I never signed up for it. People are like, well, you married Tori Spelling, and I'm like, yeah, but and naivete. I was like, yeah, but I'm marrying this person. I don't want the comments. I don't want the social media. I don't want the paparazzi. I don't want the horrible gossip. I didn't sign up for that. I just, I fell in love with somebody else. I didn't want all that shit.
Speaking
And
of Jack and speaking of
good.
Tori, you two are reunited and it feels so good. What's been the reaction though to this reunion? Like, I think about the fact that you probably are maybe in touch with Mary Jo's parents now, in some way, and
That's a
also,
great episode coming up. That's a huge episode coming up.
Yeah.
We have such big shit coming up.
yeah,
Seriously, take off your sweater and get ready. There's shit coming.
okay, with my nipples. No,
break out the
but
nipple clamps. It's going to be a good one.
It's
when
gonna
a
be
breakup happens, it's not just you two that get hurt. It's the kids that get hurt. It's
Yeah,
the
there's
parents
a
that
lot
get
of
hurt. It's the surrounding
collateral
family
damage.
gets hurt. It's even Tori hurt through the motions of this in trying to get your new life together. And so now you're back together in a podcast sense and as a friendship. But what's the reaction been from different parties involved?
incredible, positive,
Has it?
supportive. We just got off this chat with my family. There's 20 on this chat.
Yeah.
And
the whole family's,
over
texting
the
away on
moon
the
about
thread
it.
and they love it. Yeah.
There's 4 kids in my family, 3 are divorced, and my brother's coming on, and my sisters, and they're just like, and Jack is like, I'm so proud of my parents for doing this, and Tori's going to be a guest on the show, and she's supportive of Dean, and everybody's all
That's supposed
in.
to be a big surprise, but it's hard to sit on.
And kind of assumed, maybe.
He can edit it out.
And assumed, yes, and assumed, of course,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know about you, MJ, but on the Instagram, got a lot of, is Tori going to be on the show? Is Tori going to be on the show? How does Tori feel about this?
Yeah.
So we're going to have her on as a guest. She's 1,000% supportive of this, and Mary Jo and Tori have been making inroads and becoming friends, because that's a difficult situation too. The ex-wife and the new wife. I mean,
yeah. I want to let you know that it won't be too much of a surprise, but I've got a podcast coming up that we're going to do that's going to talk about that incredible night where we all got together. I don't mean sexually, but that night where we all got together. That night?
Jack's birthday party.
Yeah. I want to really talk about that on our podcast, because that was a magical night.
That was
magical.
That's when we really started to kind of deep dive into becoming friends again, and then create the show. Yeah.
This has the feeling. This has the feeling of if we can do this, anybody can do this. But
the mantra.
Is that the mantra?
It is.
What's the secret then that you would share with people? Because you think about all the animosity, all of the bad feelings. I mean, I'm divorced. I don't give my husband a second thought these days, my ex-husband. But
which one?
If I do think of him.
Which one? The big tall guy? The big tall guy?
No, I'm talking about Patrick.
Oh, the first one. Okay.
The one I was actually married to.
Oh,
yeah,
only been married once.
Married once. Okay.
But Mary Jo knew me in the relationship that I had afterwards. So you're thinking that. But I don't have any ill will necessarily, but it's not something that I could imagine happening. And yet for you two, it did happen that you guys were reunited and became friends. And I just wonder what the secret is, because we still carry all the baggage. We still carry all of the memories, the resentment, the hurt. And in your case, it was magnified by playing out publicly. So how have you gotten past? And MJ, you and I have talked before, and wasn't always a bed of roses. How do you get past all that? To get to where you are now, which in the podcast, you guys are like, you're on fire, you have chemistry, you're feeding off each other, and it's genuine and authentic. It's not just, oh, let's do a podcast and here's our gimmick. It's real.
Right.
I can tell you guys are back in a really great place. How?
How? Well, of course we're gonna bottle it and t-shirt it. I think that it really is. I think as cliche as this sounds, I think you have to, and I am by no means an expert, not even close to really tackling the whole thing, but I think it's inner work. Like, you have to really work on yourself, your responsibility and accountability and what happened, and really examine it. And it's painful.
There's also the energy. Sorry, MJ. There's also the energy of it. Like, it takes energy, it takes space in your body, in your soul, in your psyche, And it takes energy to maintain that, whatever, whatever level that you're at. It's like if you're on speaking terms, you're not on speaking terms, it's a negative energy that you got to carry around and weighs you down. And for me, it was just like, oh, enough already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we both kind of came to the same conclusion. It's like, what? Wait a second. Cut all this shit. At one point, we loved each other. Like, we both thought each other was the shit. So like, let's go back and revisit that. And why would you not go back and revisit that? Because it was a significant part of your life. It was huge. Getting married is huge, and it involves so many people. Two families are brought together, right? So why wouldn't you go back and look at that, going, enough with the fighting, it's tiresome, it's nauseating, let's go back where this started and just be civil. And here, our friendship has blossomed, and that's our hope for other divorced couples, is that they could put this shit aside, with or without kids. Kids are great to keep having to have a relationship, but let's put all this stuff aside and go back to where it began and be civil with each other.
We have an incredible chemistry together, and humor and life, and we have like a vault of memories and stuff that's happened together. And that's like a great point. Like, if you're, and I'm learning right now through this process, and we've each learned different things, that carrying that around all the time, because it does take a DNA and cellular energy, that once you start letting it go, the stuff that comes your way is incredible. Because
like a boyfriend,
getting it, like, stop.
She's crazed. I've never seen her like this.
I can understand why.
Yeah. Listen, I dated a lot during COVID, which is hilarious. I dated like 10 or 12 guys, but this is amazing. But you got to clear that stuff out to let new stuff in. And so I think that, and it's ongoing, and some moments are uncomfortable that we talk about, but we get through them. Mm-hmm. So it's very empowering. It's a very interesting experience to be doing this, I have to say.
I think it's so wise that you've talked about going back to the beginning, and you do that in the podcast. And it's one of the more charming moments of the podcast, talking about how you met. Dean saw your photo in his agency and was a smitten kitten right away, and had a Bell commercial airing. And you'd said to your mom, I believe, I want a man like that, because of this charming line that you say. Can you say it, Dean, for us? Because I was charmed by it too.
Right. But Mary Jo, you have to say, you'll call?
Okay. So let's play the
ready?
Okay.
And action.
Okay. You'll call?
Every day.
Oh, it gets me too.
Oh my God. I got wet. Did you get hard?
I am too. I'm hard as a rock.
I still got it.
You still have it. And how you were a security guard at an event, and Mary Jo was trying to get in, and then you just abandoned your post and spent time with her. It's all very charming and helps anchor the show and the beginning, and going back to the beginning and remembering why it was you liked each other in the first time, in the first place, and the magic of those early moments changes everything. I got a little bit of a lesson out of that because we think about the end of it all, don't we? We think about the messy divorce, how hard divorce was, how hard the breakup was, how awful the person was, how they weren't who you thought they were, all that kind of stuff. And we that's where we hold that person. And it's not healthy and wise to do that. And as you guys have demonstrated, going back to the beginning is a key. And I thank you for that, because I got a lot out of that. It's podcast
those
is
memories.
fantastic.
Those memories don't go away.
By the way,
those memories don't go away.
No,
as much as you want to hold on to that person in present day and think they're this, all those memories you made, the meeting at the event and all that stuff, they don't go away.
No,
they don't go away. So it's I think you have to give them attention and give them weight, because it's a significant part of your life.
I heard or read somewhere, Dean, that Mary Jo says you're doing the work, or have been doing the work to get to that helps you get to the place you guys are at now. And I wonder what that work looks like, what that actually is, because we say the work, but what is it that you've been doing?
growing up,
Mm.
I've always felt like my maturity level was a lot younger than my actual age. I'm going to be 56 next week, and
Wow.
I
Happy
think
birthday.
10 years older
Thank
than
you.
me. Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Wow.
And
Totally.
I look back and I think my maturity level stopped at 15 when my mother passed. They say traumatic experience can halt your growth. So I'm finally looking back at my life, my shortcomings, my misgivings, my mistakes, taking accountability for them, and growing from it. Because I've always wanted to believe in the universe and all this stuff and healing and stuff and light, and it's like bullshit. I'm kind of leaning into that more now. I'm actually giving it a try and putting it into action, and this vehicle is part of that. It really is. I didn't expect it to. I knew that we would have a fun show and lots of laughs, because we've never lost that chemistry and that sense of humor. But the surprising thing is how it's made me turn inward and start taking responsibility for a lot of things, which I hadn't. And it's maturing. It feels great. It's enlightening, and it's clearing space for other good things in my life. So it's
you can hear it. You can hear it in the podcast, right? You can hear it.
You can hear it.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we start moving through the podcast, oh yeah, you can hear it because both. Dean will just go, hold on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Light bulb.
Never thought of it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Dean's got a birthday next.
Our engineer, Mike, is just like, I feel like I'm a fly on the wall in your therapy session.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I felt that way a little bit as well. That I'm hearing you guys sort through things as you go. I was going to say, Dean, you've got a birthday next week. Mary Jo, I know your real age.
You look great for 73. You should own it.
No, but
I told my real age on our podcast. Nobody believes it, but I
don't believe it. You look amazing.
I don't believe it.
No, I don't believe it.
You never looked your age.
I'm having.
You never looked your age.
But how much of the success of your relationship, where it's at now, has come from the wisdom of age? It's come from aging. Can this happen for people who are in their 30s who get divorced, their 40s who get divorced, or does it have to take 17 years and a lot of aging and wisdom?
Well, I hope not.
A ton of aging, Mary Jo.
No, but do I look any different? I look better than Proud FM, don't you think?
You do. You always look better than you did before.
He can't say no.
What am I going to do? Say no?
We can't say no.
Click, leave meeting.
Bye.
Listen, we're working with a really exciting company. We'll talk about that later. But the woman who's overseeing us is in her 30s, maybe mid 30s, and she's
maybe
like,
younger.
I'm listening to this shit. I'm hanging on every word, and I'm dating now, but I'm getting stuff out of this. So, which I love to hear. And she's 20 years younger. So I think that yes, a certain amount of time does have to pass. I think you can accelerate this process, but my equation to aging is the older you get, there's a switch, and you either turn it on or you turn it off. And you can tell the people who've turned it off. They're like, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable moving forward.
Mine was a dimmer switch.
Yeah, Dean was dimmer.
I didn't flip
not
the switch.
Quite off, but people turn it off and they're like, "This is who I am. I'm done. I'm not." And I am the opposite. As I get older, I'm more curious. I know less. I want to feel better. I don't want to hold on to stuff. I don't want to repeat patterns. Genuinely, I don't want to. And so I think that that's got a lot to do with it. I mean, life is so short, cliche much, but it's true. But there is a process you go through for sure.
And if we can help couples get to that process a little quicker than 17 years, then that's really exciting. That would be great if we can help couples.
The podcast is X's and Uh-Ohs, and the hosts are the lovely and talented Mary Jo Eustace, my sexless lover, and my new lover, Dean McDermott.
Don't forget, he made you hard. He probably made you hard.
Do it one more time. Say it one more time. I'll
Say
do
what-
I'll do the
Oh,
girl.
okay.
Will you in action? Will you call?
Every day.
Oh. Get you every time.
Every time. Every time.
I want to say thanks to you
Super hot.
both so much for the podcast, the honesty and the authenticity and the wisdom within it, and for coming on the show today.
Thanks for
great
having
to see you,
us.
Mary Jo, and great to
We
meet you,
loved it.
Dean.
And
Thank you.
great to meet you too, Sean. Thanks for having us on. And we have to have
Absolutely.
you on X's and O's because you
We'll
are
have you
in the
on
divorce
X's.
club. You're in the divorce club.
Yeah,
So
I am in
you're
the divorce club.
club.
you're one
Happy
of
to
us.
come on. Love
We'd
to.
love to
Only
have
if
Say
you wear
when.
that sweater. Only if
I'll
you
wear the
that
sweater anytime I see you now.
I
From
love
here on
that
in.
sweater. I love that sweater.
That's
Thank
from home
you.
ec class. Did you knit it yourself? Where did you get it?
Can you imagine? No, I got it in Montreal.
I was going to say Burning Man. Did you get that at Burning Man?
It looks very like psychedelic.
Ooh,
Is it a
That's a-
poncho?
It could be a poncho. No, it's just a simple sweater, Mary Jo.
it's a crop
Okay,
top.
sorry. It's a crop top.
Yeah, it's with my belly
Sorry.
hanging out underneath.
Just asking. Thank
All
you
the
for
best
having
for the
us. We loved
podcast.
it. Thank
Mwah.
you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Mwah.
Okay, see you guys
All the
soon.
best.
All the best. Bye,
Bye,
MJ.
MJ.
Bye.
Bye.